How many times have you heard yourself tell yourself or have a client say, I just feel I'm not good enough. I just feel that I'm having the experience in life where I'm not worthy of a particular outcome that I want in my life. In this video, you're going to see me work with Anne, who is one of my students, but I haven't ever coached her before. And I go right in by setting the agenda as to what is it that she really wants to solve as a situation. And by the end of the session, she will start to feel that she is good enough and she's worthy of creating whatever she wants to create, and will have tools that she can take forward in her life to be able to execute and implement that every single day of the rest of her life. Let's go. Hi, Anne. Thank you so
Hi.
much for making the time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So before we started recording, we had a brief conversation, and we had a brief conversation before. There's one particular area that you seem would serve you the best, which was you have, or you feel like you have the tendency to not feel good enough. I think that's what you said.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Tell me if we were, because we're going to be together for about 60 minutes or so, what do you feel right now that you would like to not feel in about 60 minutes from now? What would make our hour successful for you? So straight off the bat, I am getting to what is it that will make this session totally worth for you? The reason why I asked that question is, again, this is not my long-term coaching client. Otherwise, I would have set this expectation in the very first enrollment conversation we would have had. This is Anne, who's coming cold turkey to a studio saying, yes, I would love to get coached by you, Ajit, right? And then we are coaching together. So in this situation, I have to make sure that I set a really good container so we know what success looks like by the end of the hour that we'll spend together. So this is a great tip for you. If you're working with a client for the first time, set a container. Define what success looks like. If you're working with a client, do that for the 3 months that you will be working with them, or 6 months that you'll be working with them. Have a clear intention of what is success looking like for your client so you can actually go towards that success point.
Walking out of this session knowing that validating the feelings that I have is not correct, because often this not enoughness has popped out in many times in my life, personally and professionally. And I want to walk out feeling that I'm good enough for everything.
Okay, cool. Have you ever wondered or defined what does feeling good enough mean? Now, it's very important that we understand the worldview of our client. So you would see me ask, and you will see me ask this multiple times in different ways as to what do you think this means? And the reason why I ask that question is because as you interact with the world outside, you would see a lot of labels that we give ourselves are arbitrarily defined and defined differently based on the person that you're talking to. What is not good enough mean to you versus to me are very different things. What not feeling worthy feels like to me or to you is very different. And because they are so different, it's always a good idea to first get the worldview of the client before trying to work on that worldview, before assuming that their worldview is same as you, because it is not. It is also a good idea because very often, and you'll find in Anne's case as well, that a lot of clients don't even know what they mean when they say certain things, especially broad terms like, I don't feel good enough or I don't feel worthy. You will find that when you ask your clients to further define it, very often they go, I don't know what that means. And that gives us an idea that they are probably carrying a worldview of the world around them versus actually inquiring within them as to what is it that really is happening in that situation for their soul, for their mind, and for their emotions.
Yes, feeling confident, feeling worthy, feeling worthy of receiving, and also when I give back, that I'm not giving out of obligation. I want to give because I believe I'm a very giving person. I have so much to offer. And sometimes I feel that I go back to a spot where I do, because by doing this I would feel good or feel validated. And then I feel it's not giving out of fullness, it's giving out of an empty cup.
Okay, cool. All right. So our objective today would be to feel confident, feel worthy, and feel that you can give freely without an
Yes.
expectation.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so, if I could further understand, so what does feeling confident mean? Like, what does it look like? What is a confident Anne for you?
Confident Anne is bold inside out, knowing what I want and doing exactly what I want in my own terms. And I believe most of the time I end up shifting my direction because I feel it's not good enough for someone else to receive the way I do things. And that again kind of makes me procrastinate a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
I struggle a lot in trying to strive. And I don't think I need to, but I do.
Mm.
From a professional standpoint, I mean, I've reached quite a substantial space or a role in my career where I believe I'm doing well. But I look at the mirror sometimes and I say, really, no, you could do better. So I kind of
Mm.
beat myself a lot in terms of, is that good enough? Um, that's never this point of satisfaction. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it took me decades to believe in myself, even though everyone else externally says, oh, amazing, you've done this, you look amazing. But no, it's somehow I come into that point of not good enough. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been so hard on myself to set my expectations so high,
Mm-hmm.
and at a cost of health, at a cost of peace, at a cost of
Mm-hmm.
even a bit of loneliness inside, because it's that struggle inside of me. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that's where I also went into life coaching, was to really coach myself rather than to coach anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been a big impact on that aspect of it. I've learned so much. And when this opportunity came, I jumped at it. I'm sure I was the first person to reply on that message. But yeah, I think this is causing a toll inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not being myself, and I have to struggle so much.
Okay. So, and can I ask for the clarity? So, you said you don't feel good enough, and at the same point in time, somewhere in the conversation you were sharing that I don't know if I have created enough, or if I've had enough, or am I good enough? Is it, or there's this chase in you, let's just say, that way of more? Is it that you don't feel good enough, or is it that you feel that you want more?
A bit of both.
Okay. So now you would see that I'm actually further clarifying. I'm going, okay, so what is it that you're really feeling? Are you looking for this? Are you looking for that? The clarity that I'm seeking is the clarity that I'm also seeking for the client, not just for myself. Because if I fully understand, and if they fully understand what they're really choosing, they'll be able to work with that energy a lot more. You'll see Anne says she's chasing both. And so I have to further clarify as I'll go through this coaching session as to what is it that she's really looking for, and what's comfortable and what's not comfortable actually in her bones, in her body, in her soul. Because a lot of times there's a counter effect, or there's a cross effect of anything that we are choosing in our life. So say, for example, if you are choosing to believe that you are not good enough, it could also be because of a comparison that you have of something that you want in life, and then you want it right now, or you think there needs to be some kind of skill that needs to be developed for you to have that, but because you don't have the skill is why you're feeling not good enough. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, because of course, if you are looking for growth in your life, you will have a gap of skill. And every time you observe the gap of skill, you would think, oh, I'm not good enough, right? So notice what you're noticing. Notice that I will bring the attention of Anne on different instances, and I would give her different situations to kind of go, okay, what do you feel about this or that, this way or that way? And that allows her to be able to further refine her understanding of what she's actually understanding. It'll help her understand and notice what she's actually noticing.
The constant striving, the constant to do more, to study more, to be more, to do more, to like really put deadlines on my own self, and like really like try to thrive, is coming from a place of not enoughness. And this is what
Mm.
I can gauge from my own study that I've done of myself. And
Mhm.
I somehow hit a brick wall where I say, I'm not cracking this.
Let's explore this a little bit more. So, wanting more is a very different experience than not feeling good enough or not being enough.
Right.
Right. And you think it's a bit of more. What is it more of? Bit of both. Which one is it more of?
The not
Here is,
enoughness.
okay.
Yeah.
How do you define not enoughness?
That's a good question. You asked me what I want to take out of it. I think the worthiness for me,
Mm-hmm.
is big. Often I ask myself, I have this, but am I really worthy to receive it? If I apply for a higher position than where I am I really going to be good enough for this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating this coaching program, like, for hospitality professionals, and a lot of people externally who see what I do at work or the way I show up, they have so much more compliments to say about me versus what I have to say about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very sad, because why can't I see the greatness that I have to offer someone else, and why can't I see it in me?
Mm-hmm. I
Like,
have two follow-up questions for you.
yes,
Firstly, if it is worthiness is different than enoughness.
enoughness, yes, yeah,
Enoughness is you thinking if you are good enough or not.
yes,
Worthiness is more a question of, did I get more than what I asked for?
yes,
Let's say,
yeah,
right? That's worthiness,
yes,
but that's not a
that's
challenge of if you feel
yes,
enough,
yeah.
right? Secondly, is it really a problem if somebody says, I want more from life? Is it really a problem if you can see the beauty in you, or is it more humility? I'm asking these questions. What is it really?
I don't think it's a problem. I mean, for me, it's never stopped me from being anything or doing anything, or for thriving, to say I'm enough, and I say it to myself, I'm
Mm-hmm.
enough as the person I am, and I don't have to be anyone else to be or do or achieve anything.
Mm-hmm.
God has created me as the person I am, and He's created me in a own way that I should learn to appreciate it. And I get that. But I somehow feel that it's not a problem, but I feel it's an obstacle that is kind of a limiting belief that's at the back of my mind. Like, I don't know. It could have been anything that has triggered it, but it's just this whole inner being of me saying,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not you, maybe it's not for you. It's So I don't know whether I define it as worthiness or not enoughness. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying, but
I'm getting what you're saying.
yeah, but it's this whole like congested feeling of, you know,
Is it congested feeling because the reason I'm asking this question is let's look at what all is possible when we feel quote unquote not good enough,
yes,
right? What all
yes,
is possible and what is really the limitation, right?
right,
What I find to be my truth, and tell me if this is true for you or not, is when I feel not good enough, it is an inspiration for me to grow. It is
yes,
an inspiration for me to study more.
yes,
It is an inspiration for me to challenge what I have done until now and say, I could be more. There could be more.
yes, it is true.
So
Yeah,
those are all positive things.
yes.
The
But I'm like on this
challenge.
hamster wheel with this whole not enoughness. Like, it's so, thank you for saying that, because it's that's what's bothering me. Is like, the wanting to work a 5 hours extra, or wanting to go and do the extra shift on a weekend, or wanting to do something to impress someone. I felt it was coming from a place of my lack, trying to show up
Mm-hmm,
in a way to kind of please others. So I felt it was like this hamster wheel. I
mm-hmm,
was in this constant stress to
mm-hmm,
do better,
mm-hmm,
to learn better. I finished life coaching with you, and then I said, let me do the business coaching. And then I took a
mm-hmm,
step back and I said, just take a breath, and
mm-hmm,
like, where do you want to go?
mm-hmm. So where do you want to go is a very different question than do I feel good enough or not?
Yes.
Because how do you get anywhere you want to go,
Yes.
here or there or
Yes.
anywhere, if you don't be more,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Because if you are not more, or you
Mhm.
don't become more than who you are
Yes.
today, wouldn't you stay exactly where you are?
What you would notice now is that I start challenging the reality that Anne has had until now, where she's looking at the negative of the experience of not having versus looking at the positive of the experience of potentially having. What we tend to do is a lot of times we look at the gap of where we could be versus where we are and go, oh, I feel I'm not good enough. I feel defeated. I feel I cannot have it, versus looking at, oh, there is more in life that I can achieve if I could only develop all these skills, and in time I would have this, right? That's a more positive, affirmative way of looking that actually creates a positive emotion versus a negative emotion. What I'm doing here with Anne is I'm showing her that you could look at the same thing in two very different ways. And if you look at them in a different way, you would have a different response, a different emotion, a different kind of energy to it versus the energy that she might be carrying right now.
What I am bringing our attention to, or what I'm hoping is resonating with you, is that being good enough, not being good enough, is not necessarily the challenge here.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is this not enough dance that we have started with ourselves? So, and the reason why I like to challenge that perception is because it's a popular social media thing to do,
Yes.
is to say, oh, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel good enough. Well, like, what's the problem?
Yes.
The problem is not your enoughness.
Yes.
The problem is your boundaries, if anything, to be able to say, oh, I can stop when I need to stop.
Yes.
The problem is to redefine what is joy for me,
Yes.
maybe, or when is I am joyful.
Yes.
I'll tell you a little story and then see where we go from there.
Sure.
So this is where I'm demonstrating a way on how you can do storytelling without necessarily passing on a belief, but showing a perspective. So storytelling is really powerful in coaching if done right. Sometimes it does impart a belief, and that's the thing to be careful of. But generally, if done well, and if you make it very much about you, like for example, to even frame the story, I say, this is where my perspective comes in. This is how I think about it. It's what I'm taking away from Anne is I'm saying you don't have to think about it this way. This is my way of looking at it. And if it will resonate with Anne, she would probably say, oh, that's a good way of looking at life. I can look at life that way too. But if it doesn't, she still feels free because I never said this is how you should think about life. What I said is this is how I think about life.
So last year, around March 2024, February 2024, we merged my company, EverCoach, that I built for 8 years into a company called Mindvalley, which
Yes.
is now Mindvalley Coach,
Yes.
right? And so we merged the companies, and the intent of merger was, hey, I'll give my stake to Mindvalley, and for that, I will stop being CEO because I was feeling like, oh, I'm doing so much work as CEO
Yes.
all the time, and my real utilization is doing this because I believe I'm an extraordinary coach,
You are.
and it seems to be that testimonials and people verify that.
Yes.
So like, great, I have validation, and I believe personally also, seems like that's the direction I should
Right.
travel more and invest more time in it. So I do the merger. Now I don't have all the CEO duties, which effectively means most of my day is free because I'm not doing any management whatsoever.
Yes.
Right. And as I'm not doing any management, what I'm recognizing is, yes, I will coach more and I do coach more, but I'm not fulfilled
Mm.
because I want to be more. And because I want to be more, I want to chase a bigger thing.
Yes.
A bigger thing. It doesn't have to be bigger money wise, bigger impact wise, bigger money wise, bigger that fuels me.
Yes.
And fuel and joy are deeply connected. There is joy in just life,
Yes.
in the present moment, absolutely. But there is joy in creation. There is joy that comes out of creating anything, really. There's joy in the moment of when we get to have a conversation
Yes.
and something happens for you or happens for me.
Yes.
Right? There's joy in all of those things. And that is not about stopping. That is about movement. So there's joy in stopping and cherishing for what is.
Yes.
And then there's joy is when life is in movement because it inspires emotion.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
The movement inspires emotion. And as the emotion is in congruence with your alignment of your highest self, you tend to experience joy. Right?
Yes.
So with that, I went after the merger for about 6 months. I was like, this is horrible. Absolutely terrible because I wasn't moving. I got the financial reward. Of course, it was a merger, right? And I had the comfort of time and the abundance of time that one could imagine because I was doing 30% of what I was doing before because CEO time is a lot of time.
Correct.
And so I have abundance of time, abundance of money, and I am like miserable. I'm like terrible. I'm like, this is not fun at all because there's no movement. So what is enoughness? And why do we need to chase this feeling of, I need to be enough? I don't need to be enough. I need to be joyous.
Yes.
I need to be in alignment.
100%. Yes.
I need to be in presence. I need to be in movement because static or a static life is not a joyous life for no one,
No,
right?
it's not.
You want movement, you want creation, but creation is inspired by a need to fill a gap within us sometimes. Sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes, right?
Yes.
If you chose the career of or chose the idea of I will become a certified life coach, it was because there was something missing in you.
Yes.
You're like, there is a little hole. I don't know what it is, but I must be inspired to do something about it. And that inspiration led you to do a program that I think made your life better,
Yes, 100%. It
right?
did, yes.
So, is it not enoughness that we have as a problem? Or is it that a lack of understanding of what gives us joy that is a problem?
You're making me think.
That's the point.
Yes. It actually is because, and also I think I used to, for the longest time, get into this trap of like a comparison, like comparing my life with someone else's. And I realized it was, I can't be someone else. It was not what I was here for. That's not what I'm here for.
Hmm.
So I think it's the joy, or the joy that I need to find in doing things, and doing things properly, not at anyone else's timeline. And I remember, during this life coaching course, there were so many deadlines, and I said, no, I'm gonna revisit Ajay's videos 10 times if I have to, because it's on my timeline,
Yeah.
and get the learning in it. And to go back to your question on why did I even to learn to be a life coach, was because deep down that whole was about, who else can I help who's feeling the way I feel? Is there someone else? Because the industry I'm in is a very high stressed environment, and can I shorten the gap for others, and to help them? It came from a very good place, but then I want to know, like, how do I take that good intention and joyfully and with oneness create an impact? Because I can't serve from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I want to feel at all times that I'm in a good place to give,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think I can give from a place of lack or
Yeah.
unworthiness, if I may say.
Yeah. So, what makes you feel worthy?
First, to know I'm worthy, I think that's super important for me. And what makes me feel worthy is when I shouldn't say that validation from someone else, when I know I have genuinely impacted your life
Mm-hmm.
in any way possible. I mean, it doesn't have to be big things.
Mm-hmm.
So even from the smallest thing, if I know that I have hand on my heart, I could look back and say, you know what, I've given wholeheartedly, and it has paid off. And I think I'm always looking for that result at the end of the day. What has that? Because I think measurements for me has become a big thing. How do I measure success? How do I measure an impact? How do I measure if my contribution to you has impacted in a positive way?
And how would you know that? How will you measure something like that?
I would ask for feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of lately, when I do programs, for example, I always ask, has this served you well? Has this created a change? Because if you don't ask, you're not going to get the response back. A few years ago, I would have been shy to even ask someone, okay. But I think I'll ask, and I will also kind of an internal measurement about, did I serve fully? When I went into a program, did I serve fully? Did I give wholeheartedly? Did I hold anything back? And was all the intentions good? I kind of do a checklist for myself to say, how did I serve today? Even at my role at work, and at the end of the day, like when I kind of do my gratitude or my journaling, I say, you know what, was there anything I could have done better today that could have made someone else's life better?
Do you think worthiness is an internal game or an external game?
I think it's an internal game.
Okay. So why do you care about measurement from somebody else?
For me to internally feel that my actions or my contributions has value.
So are you saying that you can only generate an emotion internally if it is validated externally?
I think that's where the not enoughness came from the first place. Like, I mean, when I couldn't feel the two ways of the journey, I kind of, okay, did I do enough? Was my contribution enough, or can I even make an impact?
Do you believe in universe or God or something?
100%.
I was trying to figure out how to get Anne to find faith in her or internal programming or ability to internally generate the feeling of worthiness, the feeling of enoughness. And because I couldn't find an intellectual way for her to get to that place, I started to check in if there was a spiritual path that was available here. So I asked her a very open-ended question, which was, do you believe in something that is greater than you? So I said, universe or God or whatever it might be, that do you believe in anything more than you? And thankfully, she did. And so what I use is the ability to be able to transcend your personal emotions, your own psychology, and say, okay, there's a greater thing, and can we lean into this greater thing to be able to move further in our life? As a coach, my job, that I believe is my job, is to have a client move further than what they would otherwise move. And in this scenario, if I have to take help from a greater power, I would, because the intention is still to be able to take my client to 1, 2, 4 steps further than what she would go by herself with her own intellectual self. So leaning into spirituality or a faith-based thing is perfectly okay till the time the client actually believes in it and you've checked in on that, and to move them to that dimension to be able to find the support that they're looking for creating that change in their life.
Do you believe that to some extent everybody has some um, story that has been defined by the universe, or some unfolding that's happening in universe that cannot be seen immediately?
Yes.
There is something.
Yeah,
Okay,
this.
cool. With that understanding, would you think that anybody's feedback to you in a moment may be a function of universe's play for them?
It could be a part of the process. Yes. Yeah.
So you could do your best, and I might not feel your impact, which has nothing to do with you. Do you think that is possible?
Yes.
So you see the problem with external validation and the game of the universe.
Mm.
Because external validation is often a function of the understanding of the person in the moment of time that they meet you.
Yes.
Right. If I am suffering right now, you could do the best you can. But if it is not meant to be, if my lesson is not complete, you can't do nothing to help me. You have to be at the right place at the right time for me to experience the full impact of what you might have said or done. And that is impossible to time.
Yes. And I think that's the biggest learning for today if I'm going to take away anything.
We are not
And
done
I
yet.
think, no, but like, I think I beat myself a lot, even on a professional level, like a lot on the results. And I know I've done my very best. And I know I've given 300%. I've showed up to the maximum of my potential. And when things don't go right, I come back to this point and start beating myself. And I think that's a big eye opener.
So, a great question to always ask ourselves is, what are we focusing on?
Mm.
So, if we always focus on how do I validate what I did, what tends to happen is we only work for validation, even if we think we are not.
This is where a very important question comes into our conversation, where I say, okay, what are we going to focus on? Are we going to focus on validation that we're seeking, or are we going to focus on something that's much more bigger than that, something that we can generate ourselves? So what we focus on creates our reality, creates our next action. So in Anne's situation, she was focusing on, how can I validate what I did was good? If you or anyone focuses on how can I validate what I did was good, and it is driven by somebody else's response to you, guess what you end up working for? Validation from other people. When you work for validation from other people, do you think you will feel worthy, or you will never feel worthy? You will never feel worthy because you're always depending on somebody else to tell you you're worthy. And most of the time, people are not focusing on you. So even if they believe you're worthy, they're usually not telling you that you're worthy. And so a great question that becomes for us, the great presentation that becomes for us is, what are we focusing on? Or the great question to ask ourselves is, what are we focusing on? And what is the response that focus generating for us in our lives? If the response is not in alignment with what you do want in your life, well, maybe it's time for us to focus on some other things. So if I'm always focused on will and be grateful for this conversation, I am focused on getting validation, not focused on the work. The question first to ask is, what are you focusing on? If you're focusing on somebody telling you you are enough or you're worthy or you did your job and you get the result,
Yes.
then default, you will only seek that or you'll focus and work for that, but you'll miss the point of why you were doing the work.
Or the joy in the whole process, for that
Join the whole
matter.
process, because you would not take the risk that is required sometimes because you are wondering if the other person will accept you versus if you did your best. If you do your absolute best and it leads to nothing, maybe there is a universal plan there. Maybe the learning is still to be had for you and for the person that you're serving. Maybe there is something in there that still needs to unfold, unravel, that only in time will it be seen. And before that, all you can do is do your best. Right? So what if the measurement of worthiness has less to do with how people see you, but how you see you?
Mm.
Would that be an open conversation for you?
Yes.
Okay. So when and how can Anne know that she's worthy? What will tell Anne she's worthy? How can she experience worthiness?
I think I first of all need to tell my own self to myself that I'm worthy enough. I think I've put so many people in my life ahead of me at all times, whether it's work, whether it's personal life, whether it's my kids. So I think I need to take a step back, and because I was in this people pleasing, task oriented, result oriented, measure everything state. And I think I need to take a step back and first of all validate my own feelings on how I feel and tell myself that I'm worthy enough no matter what. When things go wrong, I cannot beat myself. And when things go great, okay, a very small pat on the back, but what's next? I don't take enough of time to celebrate my own achievements when I know I've done so much. If I look back, I've done so much, achieved so much, but how much have I celebrated as much as I celebrate someone else? So I think that's what I would like to do. Take a step back and validate my own feelings first.
Okay. So you will tell yourself you're worthy. But let's say you have a moment in time, because you are still a human being. You will get impacted by things around you at all times. Your kids, your partner, your friends, your colleagues, whatever it might be. How and what will trigger evidence of your worthiness for yourself to remind yourself you're worthy? If let's say, because standing in front of the mirror, you can tell yourself you're worthy. Great. Good way to start the day. I get it.
Yeah.
But as the day unfolds, there will be moments where you'll feel like, shit, I could have done better. Damn, I don't feel worthy. Did they really appreciate me? I don't know if I deserve that. How will Anne remind herself that she's worthy? So once we have found that we can generate worthiness, we can generate enoughness, and there's nothing really that's stopping us, you got to know how you're going to do it. Because no coaching session is valuable if it just intellectually stimulates the person. It must translate into action. There must be something that allows for a person to be able to take what they learned, the experience they acknowledged in a coaching session in their life. And if they did take it to their life, if they do bring those action steps in their life, they will experience that state change, that psychological change again and again. Eventually, that psychology will shift to what is more useful to the client. But to be able to do that, you and I and all of us as human beings need something to follow through on. And that's what I'm asking Anne now. I'm asking Anne, how is it that Anne would know that she's worthy, that she's confident, that she's enough, that whatever that is that she needs to experience as a state, as a feeling, as an emotion, how is it that Anne will be able to remind herself that she needs to do it or be able to generate it for herself?
I think I need to acknowledge the fact that I'm on a journey like everyone else, I mean, and I'm not super. I'm on a journey like everybody else,
How will Anne know? How will Anne remind herself? How will Anne get back into the state of I am worthy?
What is the cue? What is the habit? What is the measure that you're worthy?
You asked me about a question about my faith in the universe and God, and I think, and I've started to do that whenever I feel it. I always have a prayer in me that says, no matter what, I'm going to go through it. That's the first thing I always do because, like everybody else, I need strength to pull me through difficult times. And yes, affirmations work. It's a great start, but there are times in the day or multiple times where I fall down, and yeah, it's
But is it working for you, that prayer, or telling yourself you're trying to solve this problem? So that means we have the problem. So the tools we have used until now, not necessarily working in the way it needs to work. What would be the tool that will come in handy when you're struggling to find your worthiness?
I've done journaling quite a lot, journaling how I feel, because to release whatever the tensions that I have, and really like taking a moment to pause whenever I feel that the need of the suffocation is always a prayer, a meditation. I walk out of a situation and I just let it in, because I cannot not feel it. I want to feel it and let it go. That's what I've been doing.
So I really want you, and later, if not now, consider that you're going to need more tools than what you have. Because the challenge that we have is not enough. The challenge is not your confidence even, probably. It seems like the challenge seems to be that for some reason you don't feel worthy of the success and the joy that you get to have in life. Somehow you feel that you can't deserve to learn as many programs that you need to learn or want to learn. You seem to somehow create a scenario for yourself where you go, oh, maybe this is not enough, or I am not enough, or I am not worthy, or whatever the story that you tell yourself. So you got to search for what is it that will remind you of your worthiness. Let me give you an example from my life. So it's a daily practice for me to remind myself not so much of my worthiness, but the intention and the purpose of my work. So my mornings start with reading testimonials often, or stories of my clients and my students. Often I would have reminders on my computer or my phone about things that I need to remind myself of. Like, for example, if you ever look at my calendar at around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a reminder that goes, love your body, which is a reminder to go to the gym. It's actually love your body is that. Yeah. Love your body is basically go to the gym or do something for your body, whatever it is. Like take a walk, go for a run, whatever feels right. I'm not tied to the gym. I'm not a gym bro. I am just more intentionally about
like
loving your body. Yeah, it's a trigger. It's a reminder that that's a part of, because what is worthiness? It's deservingness of something.
Yes.
And you feel deserving when you do something that makes you feel good, right? The state that puts us into a state of doubting our worthiness is when we're not feeling good. If you ever wondered, when do you feel not worthy? It's when you had a shitty day.
Yes.
Right? Or a shitty meeting. Or somebody said something that was just mean and evil.
Yeah.
Right? And they were doing it because probably they were not feeling worthy that day. Right? They were not trying to hurt you. Yeah. They were having a bad day. They said, I'm going to transmute it over because I'm going to say something shitty to Anne. And now Anne is feeling bad about her day. And because we're not feeling good generally, or something bad has happened in life, now we take it upon ourselves to think we're not worthy. It has nothing to do with our worthiness. Absolutely nothing. It is everything to do with that emotional state that was triggered because of what was happening in front of us or what was happening in life. So if we can somehow move our state in that moment, we can feel however we need to feel to keep moving forward.
Correct. Yes.
Right. So what if we were a battery pack?
Now I explore a very different idea with Anne. What I've recognized at this point is Anne is phenomenal as a person. She's actually wildly successful. But what she's struggling with is the moments when the emotions change. She starts to doubt herself. She starts to question what she's capable of or not capable of. And because of that, she creates this narrative in her head that she's not worthy, or she's not meant for success, or she's not meant for the success that she wants, and so on and so forth. So I introduced her to the idea of the battery pack, like how we every day must consider ourselves as if we were phone devices or a battery pack that needs to be recharged. And that gets recharged only once a day for now, which is when you go to sleep. But what if you were depleting faster than being charged only once a day? So yes, you charge yourself by sleeping, you wake up in the morning, but morning was heavy, and now you're depleted, let's say by 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, you need to recharge that time. You can't wait for the end of the day. And so you gotta ask ourselves questions of, how will I manage my state? What is the state that is most ideal for me, and how will I manage to be in that state as often, as frequently, as quickly as I possibly can?
If we imagine ourselves as a battery pack who has a fantastic morning because we slept well, because our sons and daughters are not 5 anymore running into our bed, right? So we actually get a good night's sleep, and we didn't drink wine the previous night, so thankfully we slept well, right? So you slept well, you woke up well, your emotional state is a good emotional state, usually, right?
Yes.
So you wake up right. Let's say kids were not being troubled that morning. Your morning is a fantastic start. Everybody's happy. You had a morning dance party. So everybody's good, happy, moving in the right direction. You get ready for work. You get to work, and things went out great in the morning. And then there was a bad meeting. Somebody said something bad. Now your battery gets depleted in that meeting.
Mm.
The rest of the day is hell,
Yes.
right? And so you go back home, you're hell to your kids. Now your kids have a bad day, or your partner,
Yes.
right?
Because you carried forward, right?
You carry it forward. Now everybody sleeps not in a very good way, but either in the morning they're either in a good mood or a bad mood. But now your day is depending on how they slept, instead of
True.
always feeling a good way.
Yes.
So what if when you had a shitty meeting, instead of saying, all right, this is about me and I'm not worthy, you said, let's go to the gym. Let's do a dance party. Let's watch something funny. Let me read a book. Let me listen to a book,
Yes.
right? Let me have lunch outside instead of inside.
Mm.
Let me not look at my screen for the next 10 minutes so I can get back into the state of positivity and state of knowing that this is worthy. This is not me, it's them.
So how many times a day do you have those triggers?
Every 45 minutes,
Oh, wow.
because I work in 45-minute cycles.
Any specific reason for the 45 minutes?
About 45 minutes to an hour is when my calls end,
Okay.
right? So every hour as my call ends, I have about a 5 to 10 minute break. So 45 minutes to an hour is usually I would have a 10-minute break. And that 10-minute break is dedicated to reset. It's easier if you don't have calls. Like today, I didn't have a reset because I've been doing this for like 3-4 hours straight, right? So I won't have a reset. But before I see my family, I will have a reset. Or even
So
if I
that
see
you
my
come back into a proper and
yeah.
healthy
I mean,
state.
this already is a healthy state because this is the work that I like. Just looking
Yeah.
at the screen for that long bothers you, right? You're like, I'm
Yes.
just exhausted because I'm looking at a screen
Yes.
versus a person,
Yes.
right? So you reset. And it doesn't take very long. It takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You find your patterns. You go, okay, so for me, for example, my patterns are, if I want to get back into state, the easiest is move. Whatever movement, doesn't matter. Do jumping jacks, do a couple of push-ups, go for a 10-minute walk.
You mentioned it on a
whatever that
process
is.
that we had. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they're the easiest way for me to reset for my body, for my soul, for my mind.
Yes.
Is just move in any way, right? So that's it's really fast. It takes only 7 to 8 minutes. So I would go in and move in whatever way I can, right? If that doesn't work or that's not what I'm feeling like in that moment, I'll watch something funny. Because, life is not that serious if you don't take it that seriously.
True.
Right. So you'll watch your favorite comedian, whatever talk show or whatever stand-up comedy you like. You just watch 10 minutes and you're done. Right. If my wife is available, talk to my wife. Hug her. Cuddle her for 10 minutes if she's available. Right. 10 minutes, reset. If my kids are available, 10 minutes, hang out with them. Reset. Right. So whatever that is for you, you find that. Listen to a book. That's one of my favorite go-tos because usually, everybody else is busy. So easy way is either do a quick movement, or read 10 pages, not 10 pages, but like 5 pages.
Yes.
Or listen to an audiobook for 10
audiobook,
minutes. It's even easier. Plug in the headsets, go for a 8-minute walk and listen to a book for 8 minutes. You reset, right? So find your reset.
Yes.
Because every single time you reset, you're back into the state of feeling worthy.
And the consistency as well, right? You get used to.
You get used to it.
Yes.
And so what happens, and this is why people wonder, hey, Ajit, how is it that you go through really stressful situations, but you never feel stressed? Because I don't get stressed. It's very hard for me to get stressed. Because I recently,
Yeah, something to check, Ajay, is like no matter what I go, Ajay, when I go through this this cycle of emotions, nobody externally gets to see that, and I think I'm quite good in, if I may say the word, is like masking, like um. So but it's the internal feelings and the things that I struggle with that then came into this assumption of not enoughness, or you know um why do you think, can you put some rationale to it? Because it's nobody at work would say that Anne is stressed about something. I think I show up quite stern,
that's
quite
wonderful.
well, but I rather it's the other way around, because I needed to look after my inner sanity first versus,
What tells you that your inner sanity is corrupted because externally you're
because
not
I can feel it.
yelling at
The
people?
tense. I mean, I would control myself so well to like not disrupt anyone's tension, or like or peace, or cause any tension, or like make sure that the work gets done at home. Everything is okay, and if there's any problem, I don't talk about it with anyone. Like I'd hold it inside.
Why is that?
I don't know, but it's always been kind of a thing that I could. I mean, I went through a redundancy once because of the whole restructuring of the company, and I never spoke about it externally to a single person. Like never. Like no one at home. My parents, nobody. Like
Would it have helped for you to speak, or you feel like no, you were actually better off by not speaking about it?
I guess the feeling that I'm better off not to speak, and I don't want to talk about it. But I also feel like by holding things inside, it's not doing me any good either.
How do you know it's not doing you any good either?
Because the tension is inside. Like, I'm holding it. Like, it's this.
So let's talk about tension inside. Have you ever tried to dance when you have tension inside?
No.
Because it's a bodily function, right?
Yes.
You're getting tense because you're feeling the emotions are taking away your body parts, right? They're being held somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Emotions are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how emotions is. I think Body Knows the Score. I think that's the most PhD level book that has been written that talks about how emotions are stored in body parts,
Yes.
right? How do you release something that is stored in your body part? I mean, there are many ways, but a quick way is to move the body.
Yes. I mean, I'll go to the gym, maybe work out, but so
Do
I
you
just
feel better after you go to the gym and work out or
I'm
run?
distracted, obviously. So
No, after I'm talking about when you're not distracted.
yeah, I mean, I go to the gym. It's forgot. It doesn't linger with me as much as it would if I don't. I mean, recently I had an incident that happened at work, and um, I would question the question if I have to. I would, I mean, solve the situation. But at the end of the day, I would look and say, why could it have been handled better? Or could I have just yelled and the situation would have been over? But I mean, I try to be professional, just solve the situation. But then it's like this whole, because someone wrote back to me in relation to what happened, and so I addressed the situation. I said, why could you not have had a conversation with me? Does it have to be recorded? So I said it 2 days after, but until that situation, until the moment came, I was kind of holding it for the whole weekend. And I may not have been as active as I want to be with my kids, but then I'm robbing their happiness by keeping it inside. Could I have called a colleague and just spoken about it? Could I have addressed the situation immediately with the person? But I put him first. I said, I'm not going to disturb his weekend, but he disturbed mine. So I try not to get into conflicts, but at some point I also think that's taken for granted, because maybe people think, oh, she's so strong, she's not, but inside I'm as humble and weak or whatever as everybody else could be as a human.
And gets impacted with her day-to-day life. There's things that she's bottling up, there's emotions that are going through her, but she hasn't really found ways to express them at the time it's happening. So she holds on to these emotions for an extended period of time, and because she's holding on to them for an extended period of time, she thinks, you know what, I'm not being expressive, I'm not being able to say things that I should be saying, and she's built all these narratives which makes her feel that she's holding on to emotions that are not helpful to her, which probably is true. But instead of us or me fighting her that, oh no, those emotions are definitely there, and having to have her experience those emotions again, I am looking forward in my coaching session. I'm looking forward to saying, okay, what can we do next time when that emotion happens? What are some of the tools? What are some strategies that we could have so you can immediately move from a state of questioning and doubting and beating yourself up to a state of how can I move further from it and how can I move beyond it when it does happen in that moment?
There's many open tabs that you open.
Yes.
We'll try to see how many we can close today. But first question to ask ourselves always is, if somebody impacts us or something impacts us, is what's the tool that we can use for now,
Yes.
to not have the impact be as magnetic and as impactful as it being? Because it's really in the longer extension of time, it means nothing.
Yes.
That colleague's comment on an email means nothing in the
Yes.
context of life.
True.
It is only impactful in the moment that is
Yes.
being received.
Yes.
Right. So if that is the case, and it seems like you agree with me, then if it is only relevant in the moment and today,
Mm-hmm.
what can we do today to not have the impact have that magnitude?
I mean, as you said, I'll take it as light as it is, because at the end of the day, in the magnitude of everything, is it really gonna, it's not gonna kill me, it's not gonna harm me, right? So, I mean, so I need to learn to take it with a pinch of salt, like, probably not give it as important. And you mentioned earlier about priorities, right?
What's important?
What's important?
Yeah. You rightly analyzed the situation post it happened. That the moment you gave that colleague of yours all the attention or some of the attention, you robbed your kids of some attention, right? So you know the cost of focusing on the wrong thing.
Yes.
My invitation would be, so we all go through psychological torture. I call it psychological torture because we torture ourselves with scenarios and instances that mean nothing in the context of life, especially if we give ourselves space. So one of the reasons why I like calendars and I like activity in my life is because it leaves less space for torture, psychological torture. While it is amazing to be a present human being and be a monk who can live by themselves and never interact with
Which
any
is
other
not
human being,
practical enough.
it's not practical in our day-to-day lives. People who are operating in the world right here, right? It's not
Yes.
practical. It's not practical because it creates space also for doing that jujitsu in our own minds and
Yes.
that torture in our own minds that, yes, you can learn how to not be, but that takes time, effort, energy, and it's not practical today. It will be useful over time. And so that's a capacity to build, a
Yes.
capability to build. But today, and today is the only day that we can call as every day,
Yes.
right? Because that's the only thing that is in our control is today and right now, in this moment. So the only thing we can do in this moment is to say, what is it that I'm focusing on? And is that really what's important right now?
So now I introduce an idea to, and that I think is very valuable in any coaching session when you are helping a client build a habit. So what tends to happen is habit building is being propagated and being suggested in a way which is, hey, you got to do this thing for every day for you to be able to build that habit. You need to do it for 21 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever the story being. But we are human beings. Every single day, the same amount of energy is not true for us. Every single day, the same agenda flow is not true for us. And so every day, to be able to do that habit in the same intensity, in the same way, is not possible for us, except for if that's the only thing that we do in the day. But that's not true for most of the habits that we are trying to build. So I am bringing Anne's attention to not worry so much about every day, but worry about today. So what if, and this is a thought exercise for you as well, what if you woke up in the morning and said, well, today I get to do this, and I will only evaluate today as today, which means if yesterday I was a higher energy person while doing that activity, and today I'm a little bit low and my productivity is a little bit low, I'll still consider today as 100%. I'm not going to compare it to yesterday. I'm not going to compare it to tomorrow. I'm just going to compare today to today because every day is just today done many times, right? Today, but today's energy is only today's energy. Tomorrow's energy is tomorrow's energy. And that will be experienced when it happens. But right now, in this moment, what's in front of you, you can do the best you can with what you have. And because you do the best you can with what you have, you own today. And that's what habit building is, what I'm introducing to Anne. And I think it's a great way to bring attention and take away the guilt of not being able to execute on today every single day versus just choosing today as today and executing on today like today instead of comparison from the past or comparison from the future.
And most often than not, you will realize that the thing that we're torturing ourselves with is not even the most important thing.
And it's not even worth it at the end of the
It's
day.
not even the worth. It's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Very few things in life happens that actually are worth giving that much time, effort, energy to. Very few things.
Yes.
And a colleague's email is not one of them.
True.
Right? There might be something that happens with our family, maybe in a
Yes.
larger context. Sure, it's worth giving our attention to. But most of the other things are just things.
Yes.
They don't mean nothing.
Yes.
Right? So my invitation would be that when we are in a situation like that, let's develop tools. What are the tools that we can utilize when such things happen? Right? That's what energy management is, or
Yes.
state management is. If you can manage your state, you can get more productivity, and not in the context of work, productivity in life,
Yes.
joy in life, because you manage your state,
Yes.
right?
Now I'm introducing and the idea of, hey, we can experiment with stuff. We don't have to know exactly what needs to happen, but what if we took the tools that we know of or we have heard of or we can get introduced through our coaches and just go, okay, let me go try that and see what happens. And if that does impact my state, maybe I want to add it to my toolbook. I also call it review and preview. Every week, I would review what happened last week that was useful to me that I should put into my next week or put it into the preview of next week because it was creating results for me. And that way, I can actually compound an habit, compound and a way of operating in life instead of constantly figuring out what needs to happen tomorrow without taking any data from the past. So if you find an exercise helpful, what if you did that exercise again and again and again every time you were experiencing that state? If you try exercises, put them into the box, your pocket of exercises that you can do every single time you have the same situation or a similar situation coming at you.
So you won't rob yourself of joy, and you won't rob your loved ones of joy because you're focused on some arbitrary bullshit that
Yes.
is transient anyways.
And someone who doesn't deserve it gets the back end of it.
Yeah, exactly. So my invitation, first of all, is let's consider what could be the tools. And this is a discovery. This is not a straight
Sure.
answer, right?
Yes.
You would go, okay, when I am in a state, if I dance, what happens? Right? Do I actually change, or it's like stupid, or I feel like this doesn't do anything for me? Because everybody's different.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes to go
Yes.
to the gym or go for a walk or listen to a book. So you got to go find what's yours, right? And those things would be for everyday state management. And with time, effort, and some way to recall, like how you're finding, how would you recall that you're worthy? How would you remind yourself? What would be the cue? Is the same way for your state. Is how would you remember? What is the cue that tells you, crap, I'm getting into an emotional state that's not helpful to me. What can I do to get back into the state that I would like to? Right? And doesn't have to be a quick process. I'm not saying shove the emotions down the rug. What I'm saying is let's learn how to work with them
Right.
instead of surrendering to them for an extended period of time. A short period of time, sure, they can take over. That's okay. They're signals of how we feel. It's perfectly okay. But to be in them for an obnoxiously long amount of time is not helpful. It's not healthy,
No, it's not.
right? So let's learn how to navigate that based on our own truths and our own findings and our own understanding of self, right? So that's the first invitation for you. And another invitation for you, Anne, is to wonder, how is it that we can channel our focus towards creating what's important to us, right?
So here I'm bringing back her attention to noticing as to what are we focusing on, and can we somehow at least bring focus to the question, which is what are we focusing on? Because sometimes just that question reminds us, oh, I'm focusing on the wrong thing. And that's all you need sometimes to get out of that state, get out of that situation, find the tools or utilize the tools that you already know, change your state and get back on the horse, get back into an environment where you can start creating results. And so my invitation to Anne here is, can we find ways for you to find what you're focusing on? So if you can then bring your focus to what's actually important to you and start creating results from there.
Because it seems like you are, or at least from our conversation that we've had until now, it seems like you are a high-performing person that creates psychological torture for herself. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Somebody said something. Somebody did something. That seems to be the pattern that you're living in right now, while actually creating extraordinary life for yourself. Like
Yes.
you're a student, you're growing, you've done great things for yourself. You told me you have a great career, so you seem to have a great family. So then, how is it that we are correlating? How is it that we ending up focusing on what's not working versus what is working? Right? What will bring our attention back to what are we focusing on?
Yes. I always ask myself what went well today. Like this is something I something also I think it came from one of the modules that we did together.
Mhm.
And I constantly try to remind myself because I'm not. It's not that I'm sitting in a corner and beating myself that I'm not worthy. It's not. It's like there are times when it prompts, which bothers me to say why am I even feeling this way? So something I do on a daily basis, and I've started for I think for a couple of years now, is to really ask myself, you've done well for yourself. Look how far you've come amidst of all of the challenges you've faced through, amidst of all the naysayers you've achieved so much. And doing this course with Mindvalley was again amidst of a lot of chaos that was going on work-wise, and I passed through it. So I think what I want to do is really remind myself of that things that I've done well and acknowledge it, which I don't think I'm celebrating enough. So I think to start to celebrate how well I do amidst of the difficulties or the tribulations that you have. So I think that's a place I could start immediately because that's a resource I already have in my hand. It's me. It's now. If I go back today and say, look, let me look at what I achieved 2024 and what could I do better moving forward? Because that's something I tell others what to do. What have I done well? What could have I done better? And what am I going to do better in the future? So I think I need to embed that to my daily life and to my daily being to see how can I shift when I have a negative impact. How I think the trigger of what you said every 45 minutes to go back and remind myself, you know what, whatever that is, whatever the prompt is. So I think that's where I want to start, or that's where I could start if I
Yeah.
answered your question well.
Yeah, no, that's a great place to
Yeah.
start. It's a great place to start, and keep looking.
Yes.
Keep looking for things that would help you with that state that you probably get into or
Yes.
seems like you get into, and that discounts your because here's what happens for all of us pretty
Yes.
much is if you keep telling, and that's why I don't like the dialogue of not good enough,
Yeah.
or I'm not good enough, or I'm not enough, or whatever that is, the new jargon of social media, is that if you keep telling yourself that, one day you become it.
That's true. I 100% agree on
Right?
that.
So if you keep telling yourself I'm not worthy
Yes.
because of some, self-diagnosis
Yes.
that is incorrect, most likely,
Yes.
of yourself, you end up believing it.
Yes.
And if you believe it, it is now you're adding to the work. You're
True.
adding to, you're actually
created
taking a bit.
something.
Yeah, you created something that was nothing.
Yes.
And so it's very important how we speak to ourselves. It's very important what we believe to be true. I'm not saying to not believe if it is actually true. I'm not saying it can't be worked on, but often the story that we self-diagnose, often the truth that we tend to feel is our truth is a truth. It's not the
Yes.
truth, because
Yes.
there is no the truth. There is a truth, and there is my truth, and there's your truth, and there is maybe a truth, but it's never going to be an agreement because there's my truth and there's your truth, right?
Yes.
So there's,
truth I've created for myself.
yeah, and so you're going to defend it with your life.
Yes.
And then it becomes really hard.
Yes.
And then we wonder why life's so hard.
Yes.
Life is not that hard. There are situations that are hard, but life itself is meant to be not easy per se, but it could be joyous
It's meant to be joyous. It's meant to be
if you allow
joyous.
yourself
Yes.
to have it.
Yes.
I'm always reminded of, I grew up in India. So I always grew up seeing people incredibly joyous, even if they had nothing.
That's true.
They had nothing. They were living on the street, or they were maybe not living on the street, but they were joyous, right? And the more I travel the world, more I find that things don't make you joyous.
No.
It's your understanding of things that makes
Yes.
you joyous. That's why you fall in love with monks, right? Because they are joyous. They don't have anything.
Yeah.
They're living off
free.
feeds. They're
Yes.
free. But that freedom is in our minds. There is no place they got to. There is no financial abundance they got to feel free. They felt free or are free because they finally resolved that this is it.
Yes.
You can feel that right now in this moment.
Yes.
There
I
is
think
no
it's
place.
important to cultivate that mind at ease and keep
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, what would be two things or three things that you're taking away from our conversation today that you would like to kind of like capture and go, okay, these are the three things that I'm going to remind myself from this conversation?
So now I'm asking the final question. I want Anne to know what she's taking away from this conversation. So I'm asking her to summarize for me as to what is it that she's going to take away from this conversation. What are some of the steps that she might be taking, which will allow her to be able to take all of the conversation that we had in the past hour or so to be able to bring it to her life. This is a very important step in any of your coaching session. Ask your clients to summarize everything so you will know how they view the session. What is it that they learned? What is it that they captured? What is it that they're going to take forward in their life? Because if they don't take anything forward in their lives, they will not be able to utilize all the wonderful work that you might have done with them for hours before. So, what do you think about this coaching session with Anne? Go ahead, use the comment section below and tell me what were some of the nuggets that you took that you will find useful in your coaching sessions or for yourself.